Redwood Parliament is a group of activities and provocations and exercises as we try to sort of understand what goes into building a governance layer for the internet. What is this layer, this set of shared infrastructure? What is that serving? What is it? What kinds of experiments and activities and concepts is that helping bring together? And in this case, the Redwood Parliament is a physical convocation of that. Right? It's bringing a bunch of people together to figure out, how can we figure out this big old thing called a governance layer for the internet? This, wildly speculative and ambitious thing.
So Redwood Parliament is the brainchild of a group of folks at MetaGov off the back of an invitation by the folks at DWeb Camp. So MetaGov is an organization that engages in experiments. It's looking at this broad field of governance, but the meta piece of it is looking at the ways in which governance systems interrelate as well. So there's like a systems level approach. And we got some sponsorships from Unfinished and others that allowed us to really work with a whole bunch of different organizations to try and bring some of these folks who've been thinking for a long time around, evolving systems of power, systems of decision-making, systems of deliberation for a digital future, and maybe a future where people are able to take more engagement and agency.
Well, I am convinced there's a potential in the next evolution of the internet to build democratic capacity back into society. And so I was eager to hear the conversations here that might be pushing in that direction. I think that a sense of a common project, not a commitment necessarily of everybody, but at least a sense of like where it's going and what are the holes that are there, and what would be great to stand up to fill those holes so that we can begin to get the whole stack of the democratic problem addressed. I think that would be an amazing accomplishment after 3 days.
Black Swan is an artistic research project into taking learnings from the blockchain space, from peer-to-peer web, and thinking about how we might create a more equitable art world. At DWeb Camp, we are facilitating a new role-playing game that we've created called The Modules. We ask that participants create organizations first where they, at random, have to pull different modules. So they pull a decision-making module, they pull a communication module, an onboarding module. Based on these modules that they pull, we want them to kind of situate organizations in a fictional world that we've created, and then we enter into the organizations during the role-playing component and ask them to find a more preferable distribution of the resources.
The way in which the workshop has turned out has probably exceeded our expectations. People really dedicated themselves entirely to the world that they were building. And it was interesting, I thought, to see how the decision-making module that we gave people, groups, organizations, sparked the most conversations around decision-making, and how, the decision-making process itself becomes like this trigger for coordinations itself.
I'm here with the Social Observatory Project, and we're studying human social science in the wild.
We are here to deploy a census for the DWeb community, partly to gather data about the sort of community itself, but also to give people the experience of what it's like to think about who you are collectively, who you could be, what you could do with that data about yourself, and also how to govern that data.
Community Rule is an attempt to imagine what it would look like to bring the making of bylaws into online first context. What would it look like for people to, as groups, start forming and designing how their communities work? And so it's a web app. You kind of drag and drop modules, you adjust them, you configure them and specify what they mean. And it's an attempt to make explicit how a community might function.
This major minor decisions, everybody should vote. Why is there only a few people that should vote? Major decisions, everybody should vote. Yes, that's very correct.
If there's something that should be kept in secret and there's a vote, only people which are high in hierarchy should be able to discuss about what's gonna happen.
So if there's a big vote, then everybody gets to vote. It depends on what the vote is about. Like if something like secret, then yeah, only the hierarchy should vote.
Well, I can write down anything I should write down. Did you come up with anything?
No. Major minor decisions.
Oh, you want to change it? Okay, what do you want to say?
For something really big about it depends. Everybody, it depends what kind of vote. Is it just something secret or just something nobody should know? It's not anything dangerous. Like everybody should be able to vote for something big.
It depends what kind of big thing it is.
Yeah.
And when people are in panic, sometimes things happen. So I'm just,
Okay, yeah. So mob rule is totally a thing, and it breaks a lot of democracies, so it's really good you guys are sensitive to that, because that's really a thing that grown-ups are vulnerable to, and so it's great you're planning for it.
Radical Exchange Voice is a process of group deliberation that we've been designing. We're trying to imagine new ways for groups to come together and deliberate and do group sense making around issues that are important to them.
And I think that you can't let everyone just do what they want because there's bad actors, and so there needs to be some governance.
Okay. I do think that there should be governance, but I'm kind of on this side of it because I'm worried about like the prompt. There should be a governance.
So this whole process, though, is about the seeds of it are in the democratic process, but how do we make that equal to having everyone's voices heard, having everyone's opinions shared in a way that is fairer? So in this way, the group decision-making process, that's the public good, is everyone's voices are heard. We are having a discussion, we're having the delegation deliberation, and then the decision-making.
The many different timescales that are operating in this environment and the way that change takes place again across those multiple timescales. So some things change very quickly, and some things like these trees that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, they all work together. And this is something that has come up in some of our conversations over the last few days, is thinking about governance not as a process, as a single process, a single thing that happens, but something that is constantly happening and something that's constantly happening at different scales.
I'm particularly excited that we've had here at the Redwood Parliament and DWeb Camp more generally, folks from an activist background, folks from an indigenous background, folks from a cooperative background, people who've been in arts and music, and thinking about how we create together as well as make decisions together, but really sort of be as beautiful as we can be when coming together in all of these different contexts. And I think that's what's really special this time around, is to see all of these wonderful people from various different backgrounds who are able to learn from each other about some of the experiences that they've had around, cooperating and taking things forward together.
Yeah, I think one of the things that surprised me in a really joyous way is just how much of a community we found at DWeb Camp. Mixing with all these builders from Secure Scuttlebutt, from Unfinished Labs, from Creative Commons. And there's really a kind of community of people here, mixing Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, who care about governance and are thinking deeply, and are deeply engaged with these questions around what is the future of the internet? How can we change it for the better? But in realistic ways.